April 1945. Bergen-Belsen, a concentration camp on the Nieburg Heath in northern Germany, near the town of Celle. British tanks of the 11th Armored Division pushed through the gates that morning. What the soldiers find stops seasoned men where they stand. More than 13,000 corpses lie unburied across the compound. Tens of thousands more prisoners are dying inside the huts, of typhus, starvation, and dysentery. Most of the SS staff who ran the camp have already fled west. A smaller group stays behind, some too sick to run, some ordered to hand the camp over intact. Among them are officers, doctors, and guards who spent the war years enforcing starvation and selecting prisoners for death. British soldiers round them up at gunpoint, separating men from women, taking down names for what will become the largest war crimes trial Britain has yet attempted. One of the women in SS uniform is 21, blonde, and already known to the surviving prisoners by reputation alone. What she did in that uniform will be established, piece by piece, in her own words, over the interrogations and the trial still to come. Her name is Irma Grese. Irma Ilse Ida Grese was born on 7 October 1923 in Recken, a farming village in the Mecklenburg-Strelitz region of northern Germany. Her parents, Alfred and Berta Grese, worked as dairy laborers and raised 5 children. Irma was the third. In 1936, Berta Grese killed herself by drinking hydrochloric acid after learning her husband was having an affair with a local innkeeper's daughter. Alfred Grese raised the children alone and later married his mistress. He forbade Irma from joining the Bund Deutscher Mundell, the League of German Girls, the Nazi youth movement for girls. She joined regardless. She left school in 1938 at 14, worked briefly as an assistant nurse at an SS sanatorium, and was twice turned down for formal nursing training. In July 1942, at 18, she joined the SS Gefolge, the corps of female auxiliaries attached to the SS. She trained as an Aufseherin, or overseer, at Ravensburg, the all-female camp north of Berlin, supervising work parties of about 20 prisoners. Ordinary training for the role took roughly a month. Grese completed it in 3 weeks. Her father disowned her over the choice and refused to have her in his house. Superiors marked her out early as capable and unflinching. By March 1943, she was recommended for transfer to the newest, largest camp in the system. She arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau, the killing center built in German-occupied Poland, where more than 1 million people would ultimately be murdered. She rose quickly. Before her 20th birthday, she held the rank of Oberaufseherin, senior supervisor, the second highest position among the camp's female staff. She was placed in charge of Lager C, a section holding as many as 30,000 female prisoners at a time. She took part in the selections at the ramp, deciding alongside SS doctors which new arrivals would work and which would go straight to the gas chambers. She carried a pistol and a plated leather whip and was frequently seen with 2 half-starved Alsatian dogs at her heel. Survivors later testified she struck prisoners across the face hard enough to leave permanent scars. Camp doctor Josef Mengele, notorious for his experiments on twins, worked the same ramp selections. By the end of 1943, Grese was not yet 20 and already one of the most feared figures in the largest killing center the Nazi state had built. Guards who trained beside her at Ravensburg were posted onto camps across the system, carrying similar methods with them. Grese herself stayed at Auschwitz for close to 2 years, longer than most women who held the role. Survivor testimony gathered after the war described a widening pattern, not isolated incidents. Witnesses said that at Auschwitz, Grese ordered a guard to shoot dead a prisoner who had fallen behind on a work detail. The order was carried out at once. In January 1945, with the Red Army advancing through Poland, she was sent back to Ravensburg with a column of evacuated prisoners. In March 1945, she was transferred again to Bergen-Belsen, arriving with thousands marched or shipped in from camps further east. There she held the title Arbeitsdienstführerin, Work Service Leader, under Camp Commandant Joseph Kramer. Later also serving as Reportführerin in charge of roll calls, The camp, built for roughly 10,000, was by then holding tens of thousands more, with almost no food, water, or sanitation. Witnesses testified Grese kept beating prisoners through this period, and that a Hungarian Jewish woman was shot dead on her order. When the British arrived on 15 April 1945, Grese did not run. She was arrested alongside Kramer and the SS staff who had stayed, and for several days afterward was made to help bury the dead in mass graves. She was then moved to a detention center at Cell in Lower Saxony to await questioning. On 21 May 1945, at Belsen, she gave her first sworn statement before Captain Alfred James Fox and Major Geoffrey Smallwood of the British Army. She described her postings and duties in careful detail. She denied ever beating or ill-treating a single prisoner. She was 21 when she signed it. It would not be her last word on the subject. On 14 June 1945, Grese was brought again into a plain interview room at the detention center in Cell. Facing her across the table was Lieutenant Colonel Leopold John Jen of the Royal Artillery, head of No. 1 War Crimes Investigation Team. In civilian life, Jen was an actor. The year before, he had played the Constable of France in Laurence Olivier's film of Henry V. An interpreter sat beside Grese since she spoke no English, translating each question and answer as the interrogation proceeded. Jen's team had spent the preceding weeks gathering affidavits from survivors who recognized Grese's face in stacks of camp photographs. He read parts of these statements to her, one by one, and asked her to answer each in turn. She was questioned about roll call, held twice a week, and about the whip she was known to carry. She was asked directly whether her earlier denial had been true. She paused. "I have thought it over and now wish to confess," she said, and admitted to beating prisoners with the whip she had denied carrying a month before. She described how, during roll calls that sometimes lasted hours, prisoners who fainted or fell out of line were beaten where they stood. She said the beatings were done with the whip and sometimes with her own hands. A clerk wrote the confession down as she spoke, then read it back through the interpreter. She signed it at the bottom of each page. The interpreter certified in writing that she had understood every word. Jen's team filed the new deposition with the case being built against her and 44 others. Outside that room, the same team was gathering near identical accounts from women who had survived her rounds at Auschwitz and at Belsen. She signed the confession 3 weeks before her 22nd birthday. Grese's file was one of dozens moving through the same investigation that summer, not an isolated case. No. One war crimes investigation team had been ordered to prepare 500 Belsen cases for trial within 4 months, with a fraction of the staff the task required. Because Auschwitz lay outside any Allied occupation zone, no separate tribunal could try crimes committed there. Prosecutors folded the Auschwitz evidence into the Belsen case instead. By September 1945, the team had assembled charges against 45 defendants, 24 men and 21 women, for offenses spanning both camps. The trial opened on 17 September 1945 in a converted gymnasium on the Lindenstrasse in Lieberg, Lower Saxony. A British military tribunal, presided over by Major General H.M.P. Bernie Ficklin, heard the case. Lieutenant Colonel Jen served as one of the prosecuting officers. Grese pleaded not guilty and was defended by Major L. Cranfield, despite the confession she had signed months before. Survivors gave testimony across 54 days of proceedings, among them Ilona Stein, who described Grese as one of the most feared guards in the women's camp. Grese sat largely expressionless through the hearings. On 17 November 1945, after 6 hours of deliberation, the tribunal found her guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. She was sentenced to death by hanging. Her plea for clemency went to Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, commander of the British occupation forces. He refused it. No appeal was possible. She was returned to Lüneburg prison, then transferred to Hameln jail on 9 December. Albert Pierrepoint, the British Army's contracted hangman, was flown in specially to carry out the executions. On 11 December 1945, Grese wrote a farewell letter to her siblings, urging them to remain proud and defiant Germans to the end. The hangings were set for the morning of 13 December 1945 at half-hour intervals under heavy secrecy and armed guard. Elisabeth Volkenrath, the head female guard at Belsen, was hanged first at 9:34 a.m. Irma Grese followed at 10:03 a.m. Witnesses said she walked to the gallows calmly and reportedly laughing. Her only recorded word was Schnell, quickly. Johanna Bormann, known for setting her dogs on prisoners, was hanged next at 10:38 a.m. Joseph Kramer, the camp doctor Fritz Klein, Deputy Commandant Franz Hessler, and guard Peter Weingartner were among 8 men hanged in pairs that same morning. 19 other defendants received prison terms of 1 to 15 years. Most were released within a decade. 14 of the 45 originally charged were acquitted and released outright, a result that surprised much of the watching German public. Among them was Ilse Lothar, a former capo, a prisoner put in charge of other prisoners, who had also faced testimony from Auschwitz survivors. She, unlike Grese, walked free. Leopold Genn returned to acting after the trial and went on to a long film career, earning an Academy Award nomination in 1951 for his role in Quo Vadis. The death toll at Bergen-Belsen has never been fixed with precision. Historians estimate roughly 52,000 people died there between 1941 and 1945. At Auschwitz-Birkenau, where Grese served for close to 2 years, more than 1 million people were murdered, most of them Jews. How many of those deaths can be laid personally at her feet has never been established. The tribunal did not attempt to produce a single figure. Historians have long debated why an ordinary rural upbringing produced this degree of cruelty. Some point to her mother's suicide and her father's harshness, though no explanation has ever been considered conclusive. Grese herself offered no explanation beyond duty as a soldier of the Reich, a defense the tribunal rejected outright. She was the youngest woman executed under British law in the 20th century, hanged at 22 for acts she had confessed to at 21. The tens of thousands who died in the camps she served were, for the most part, never individually named at all. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss our next episode. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.